Okay, this is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. Um, Today all the dots are going to connect, but I'm gonna start with what's going on in the pyramid. I'm gonna go a little more into depth. I did a live on Facebook a couple days ago, and I see already over 800 people have seen that, but this is gonna go way deeper.
Well, we're 1,000 now.
It's over 1,000 now, yeah. So when we see what's really happening under the pyramids. This is going to, because you've been following the harmony of the order, you're going to see this really clearly that, okay, here we go. So this is one of the scans right here. Let me go to share screen. And the height or the depth of this is harmonic. And I'm going to demonstrate what that is. So these are measured. They're not approximations because they have radar ground penetrating from space, uh, um, and I've watched the video. In fact, I was able to extract some of these images from the presentation by Biondi, and who's one of the head researchers on this project, and he's stating they are very clear that they're interpretations. So these cylinders are interpretation of scan data. And he's saying they're at least 90% accurate. So these coil structures initially could be several things. Most likely they're classic electromagnets. And if the central columns are made out of lodestone, and lodestone is a naturally occurring magnetized rare earth metal that is actually magnetized, whereas, plain iron, ordinary iron can be magnetized permanently, but it is not. But lodestone is naturally magnetized. And therefore, if you put a coil around magnetic rare earth materials, then it will, when you charge it with power, it will turn into a magnet. So I'm going to show you a scientist. A lot of people don't know who this individual is. His name is Nathan Stubblefield, an American inventor who, let me see the date. His patent application was 1896. I'm going to show you this because Stubblefield created batteries, literally, and an inter-earth telephonic system in the ground. In fact, these batteries produced power in the ground, but what's not described in the patent, these are just coils. They're copper coils. So it would be not unlike putting some of my coils systems in the earth. And he says the texture of the earth has to be moist. It has to have water. It doesn't have to be flowing with water. It just needs to be moist. And you will get current. But what Stubblefield does is he actually sticks probes in the ground and finds certain locations that have more electricity in the ground than others. In fact, what he does next is he starts sending telephone messages through the Earth's crust using his coil systems as transducers. And all you need for a transducer is an electromagnet in the ground, and you just need to send vibrations through the ground. And he did this, I believe, in the eastern United States. Um, Here he is, Nathan B. Stubblefield of Murray, Kentucky. And this is his electrical battery. And then Stubblefield then moves on here. Let me find another page on him. just so you can see who he is. Here he is on Wikipedia. The Wikipedia article is pretty good on Stubblefield. But he starts sending radio messages very clearly through the earth. So Nathan Beverly Stubblefield, November 22nd is when he was born, which is the date of the Kennedy assassination, to March 28th, 1928 is when he died. So he made a wireless telephone network system through the Earth's crust. And that's going to start to give us an idea of what's going on under the pyramid structure. So when we look at these coil structures under the pyramid, we can liken them to what Stubblefield is doing. Again, these are interpreted images from the data images, which Biondi is saying is a correct interpretation. So it's not speculation. I'll show you some of the other coils. This one here, and this is not interpreted data. This is actual data right here. This is an actual coil. And what's interesting about this coil is you can see this tube. Again, we don't know what this is made out of, and it starts to go into this vortex funnel. And I've really got into measuring the angles on this, and it's really amazing because the bottom coil to the middle coil are 1 to the golden ratio, and the second coil to the top coil are 1 to the golden ratio. But each consecutive coil are not 1 to the golden ratio. So you have to skip. And that suggests design that is not naturally occurring. This is a extremely large coil structure, and you can see at the very bottom here this incredible cone with this arc and this curve in it. So there's a lot of measurements that need to be taken here and to find out what this is actually made out of, the coil. Is it copper? Is it some other type of metal? Because if it's made out of something like copper or possibly even gold, it you can't make a coil out of bare wire without causing an electrical short if two or more of the wires overlap each other. They have to be separated. In fact, in Tesla's early coils, his wire was not insulated wire. And like this, you see how these coils here are, the coils themselves are actually um, separated, meaning the wires don't touch each other. So again, these aren't just skinny little wires. Whatever these are made out of, they're significantly thick. And that suggests they're Tesla type primary coils because Tesla's primary coils were made out of extremely thick wire. The secondary would be whatever is wound in on these columns, or the columns, if they are solid lodestone, these are giant electromagnets, which are transducers, meaning they transduce physical vibrations through the Earth's crust, which is what I really think they are, like a Stubblefield telephonic system, allowing them to send signals to the other pyramid stations that they are in harmony with. And I stress harmony, meaning they're designed, this network of pyramids is designed from above to reflect the connections all over the planet to the different pyramid sites. And now we're going to really understand what's going on. But before we go to my big map, I want to go back to this, some of these coil images, and then I'm gonna show you a real measurement of the coils and what it means. It's really incredible. So again, these are some of um, the interpreted image. I'm just going to put it back up on the screen here from the data is 2 kilometers deep. So these cylinders, not counting the height of the pyramid, are 2 kilometers deep. And again, in my system, they are measuring these perfectly harmonically in feet. Yes, the Egyptians had feet. They didn't call it a feet. It's a different unit. But the ancient Egyptians, again, who did not build this system, there's no way the Egyptians, what we call the Egyptian people today, built these pyramids. These are far older. They came upon these temples from an earlier period of history. So again, with these long cylinders being transducers, I mean, I'll show you. I have a transducer right here. I mean, this is a tiny little transducer, just so you know. It's a, it has 2 wires, power source wires coming in, and it has a magnet and a coil, and it transduces sound. And if you put that into the Earth's crust, as Nathan Stubblefield did, you can send telephonic messages through the Earth's crust. And Stubblefield did this over great distances, and you could hear the person through the ground perfectly. It's amazing that this technology isn't being used today, or maybe it is being used in some type of classified manner. So what we're going to do now is look at the measurement of 2 kilometers in feet, and it's really stunning. So what you take, we go to, I'm just going to show you the process, convert kilometers to feet, and going to go like this, share screen so we can see this, because we're going to see in my chart what these numbers mean. So we're going to go 2 kilometers is 6,561.68 feet. And of course, in my system, a foot is equal to 1 day of time in my harmony of the order calculation. So when we go to that number in my chart of the hyperdimensional solar system, I'll pull that model up, and this is incredible. There are no coincidences. So where this is, I mean, our group right now, we just finished 2 weeks on archangels, and we're now going to principalities. Look at the number, 655,429. It's the same number. It's the same number as 2 kilometers, because that's 99% accurate for 2 kilometers in feet, because 2 kilometers, 6,561. 6,561 to 6,559, 6,55429. I'll tell you what the accuracy is. 6,554.29 is the number of days that it takes principalities, the third level of the angelic, to go around the sun once. So 6,55429, the measurement for principalities measured against 6,561.68, 6,561.68 is 99.88% accurate. That's incredible. Incredible, because we know now, if I take the measurement for the 2 kilometers and I take that measurement, 6.5, this is the measurement for the depth of the cylinders going in to the Giza Plateau. I'm just going to show you my calculator so you can actually see this calculation. It's really incredible. So I put my calculator here. Go to share screen. There it is. Okay, so that's the measurement on the Giza Plateau. And that's where our inner circle is right now. This week we start on principalities. So there we have we're going to be doing the frequencies to connect with this. So I'm going to divide that by the golden ratio. And this is the exact measurement of 2 kilometers. And I'm going to keep going. That's Jupiter. That's Jupiter. That's 2506 is the next level of angels. That's planet Ceres. That's on my angelic chart. That's 591. There it is. That's Earth. You can't argue that that's Earth. 365.66. I mean, that's 99.99% Earth. All I did is take the height of these cylinders, divide it by the golden ratio in feet. And I keep going. That's Venus. That's planet 139.51. That's Mercury. That's Cherubim. That's Seraphim. And that's Vulcan. And that's one of Dante's innermost rings, the last 3 rings. That's the second innermost ring, and that's the
How
great.
did you know to do that, David?
Well, exactly. By doing these frequencies, my consciousness has opened up to this. It's like you can suddenly see. I mean, I'm meditating every day for the last 47 years, and I'm just, these frequencies are tuning me in, and I'm seeing it now. I'm seeing it really clearly now. What's going on is the harmony of the order is orchestrated by God. And the harmony of the order is the percentage values of the planets embedded in the measurements between 2 points on the Earth of major events. So there's 2 things that happen on the ground. There's angle, attributed to Stan Tenon's angel is equal to angle, is one, because the angle is the angle that the energy is coming in at to that point on the ground, between the point. So you have the angle, the incident angle of the light coming from the position of the hyperdimensional planet to the event, and the proving that this is God's temple. The Great Pyramid of Egypt is God's temple in the book of Isaiah. And I should probably, just for the record of this video, just show Isaiah 19:19, really reading this correctly. Isaiah 19, just Isaiah chapter 19. You have to go to the whole chapter. And it's interpreted as a prophecy against Egypt, because God is clarifying that you have to understand, you got to read this correctly, Isaiah 19:19, when we get to the part of 19 in Isaiah, is at the time of Moses, what is now Israel and the Palestine was all Egypt. It was
Right.
all Egypt. And
Yeah.
so today we have a border of an area we call Egypt, but Egypt was conquered several times. It was conquered by Alexander the Great, and then it was really transformed into a Greek territory, and then the Romans conquered it. Right. So it has the border now, but when you read 19, in that day, there will be an altar to the Lord in the heart of Egypt, and it's actually an obelisk, a pillar at the border, right? It will be a sign and a witness to the Lord Almighty in the land of Egypt. And so that's prophecy, but this is actually, God is actually saying there will be, it's already there. The temple,
Mhm.
the Lord God is already there. And the proof is in the math that I'm presenting because it's bonded to the location of the prophets and it's bonded to the birth of Christ and his baptism and John the Baptist. It's all bonded to these events. It's bonded to Fatima, the miracle of the sun at Fatima, and it's bonded to the miracle of the tilma in Mexico in the year 1531. So we're going to go over all of this here, but we can clearly see that we've missed the mark. In fact, the idea that Christianity somehow starts in Rome is a total fallacy. It starts with Jesus as a child in being the angel of the Lord appearing to his mother, saying to take the child to Egypt and raise him there, where he is raised for at least 4 years. And having studied Moses, and Moses being trained in all things Egyptian, Jesus would have returned to complete his studies in Egypt as a very young man. There's no doubt about this because the Egyptian church, the Coptic church, has churches stationed all over that are really the oldest remaining churches in the earliest Christianity today. They precede the Roman church. Absolutely, they do. And the Coptics marking the spot where the Holy Family lived in the land of Egypt is very clear. So to say,
Also the Greek Orthodox Church too.
right, yeah, well, the Orthodox Church is the first church. Again,
Right.
a lot of people don't really know that. The Roman Church is secondary to the first Orthodox Church set up by Constantine in what is now Turkey. So when we see and understand these three pyramids are the three wise men who travel along the 26.3-degree line, which is my lower yellow line here, going to the east where the Star of Bethlehem rises, which is this line is way above the ecliptic of the known planets. So the Star of Bethlehem, it cannot be Jupiter because Jupiter is rising way down here somewhere. It doesn't rise up here at this angle. So when we come to we follow the angle, and notably the angle of ascent inside of the pyramid leading to the king and queen's chamber is, in fact, before I go to this, because I want to give a graphic of this, I want people to see that it's not easy to get a really good image of this online, but there's two most sacred angles in the pyramid. One is the angle of the pyramid itself, which is again, the three pyramids have three slightly varying angles, and there's a reason to that, but the slope angle of the Great Pyramid is 51 degrees, 51 minutes, 14.3 seconds, and the inside angle of both, you see, you have what's called the entrance here, is the descending passageway is 26.3 degrees, and the ascending going up to the Grand Gallery, which leads us to the entrance to the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber. This is all 26.3 degrees. So what is Jesus doing if he's not tied to this pyramid and this isn't God's temple? And why is the king's chamber measurement 10 by 20 cubits the same as Moses's holy place? When he was carrying the Ark of the Covenant with the Israelites, God gives them the dimensions to build the tent of the Holy of Holies, 10 by 10 cubits, which is within the perfection of the Queen's chambers, 10 by 11 cubits. It's really 10 by 10 in the holy space of the Queen's chamber. There's an extra cubit there for just people taking their shoes off and coming in the front door. And the King's chamber being the same measurement. And then the 26.3-degree angle is where Jesus appears. Now, it turns out it gets much more amazing than that. And that is because the angle, there's two angles. There's two angles that are the most important in the story of Christ's birth and his resurrection. And I figured out what the second one is. So this first yellow angle is 26.3 degrees. Pyramid interior angle leads to his Jesus's birth site in Bethlehem, and the wise men were stationed somewhere along this 26.3 degree line because they're looking at what's rising in the east, which is the star of Bethlehem, which is a planet, a hyperdimensional planet that appears and disappears but maintains its orbit around the solar system in this position. And John the Baptist camped out right at the end of the line. Of course, the line continues, and that's a whole other study to see where it intersects when it continues. But the fact that John the Baptist is on this line, and let's say I eliminate the Great Pyramid, and I measure between the Church of the Nativity and John the Baptist, it's 26.3 degrees. It's within that, can be off by a shaving, of course. That doesn't really make any difference because it doesn't have to be razor precise because they're tracking the rising at 26.3 degrees of the Star of Bethlehem, which then sets in the west. And again, Mary Magdalene, again, no, her line is separate. When it sets in the west on this line here, we're going to go to its western setting line. We're just doing this as a recap. We come to the miracle of the sun at Fatima in Portugal in 1917 right here, right? So what people saw there was clearly never resolved by astronomers ever. In fact, to this day, astronomers still think these 60, 70,000 people were deluded and they were just seeing the sun coming through the clouds. I mean, how ridiculous. It's just that when science can't explain something, it has to write it off as some type of religious fanaticism, when really what they saw was an annular ring eclipse, a ring of colors spinning around like a disc, which is very interesting because Dante said the angelic planets spin very fast when Dante saw them all. So the fact that this is eclipsing the sun means it can't be a distant star that the Star of Bethlehem is. It has to be between the sun and the earth, which means this planet is in the inner solar system, not the outer solar system, because you can't have Mars eclipse and the first planet in the outer solar system create an eclipse. It can't happen between the perspective of the earth. If you're on Mars, you could see an eclipse of the earth or what's called a transit of the earth, which does occur periodically, but you would not see this. This is an inner solar system, very large body that is a planet. Now, what's amazing is when we come to the blue line here, which is between 38 and 39 degrees, and I know exactly why it is, there are more events than the temple of the Magdala temple, and the fact that Pope Gregory won in the year 591, which is my magic number in my system. It's the number of days that it took my wife to call out my name after she died, which built this whole model. Pope Gregory I makes all three Marys, the prostitute, Mary Magdalene, and another Mary, all the same person. In the year 1969, Pope Paul VI reverses it, saying it was a mistake. Mary Magdalene is not the former prostitute. She's from this wealthy family in the Sea of Galilee here, where the Smithsonian study shows the excavation of a synagogue, an early Jewish synagogue, at the end of my line here. In the village of Magdala is the family name. Now, how stupid would it be for a whole village to be named after a prostitute, a poor woman with no wealth, nothing at all, trying to make a living for herself, terrified? This is not a woman who's named after a whole town. Who owns all the fishing vessels? This is so obvious. But what else happens at the end of this line is Jesus appears to the apostles. This is in the book of John 3 times in the region of the Sea of Galilee, which is right here.
Right.
So this is resurrection angle. And the Egyptians knew this. They called resurrection angle the 39-degree angle in depictions of the god Osiris resurrecting at 39 degrees. This is it's actually between 38 and 39 degrees. It's not exactly 39. So what else is
Is
on
Angel Gabriel 39?
numerically? I don't know. That would be very interesting. You see the town of Nazareth? Jesus
Yeah.
of Nazareth,
Wow.
right here. Also on this line is the mountain that Jesus transfigures on is where in math in the where he shines like the sun and the apostles fall as if dead is right here, Mount Tabor. Okay, so this is the mount here. That's why I said between 38 and 39 degrees, because this is the mount where this is the lookout of Mount Tabor here. So it's in this region here where that miracle occurred. So when I zoom out into space, do you see the accuracy of
Isn't
that
there a
piece?
scholar named Tabor that's studying this stuff too?
Right, there is. It's funny that that's his last name.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is where so why is all of this? Jesus walking on water is in the Sea of Galilee. It's all at the end of this line because so that suggests that something magical happens with we're in a second angle now. The
Wow.
angle of resurrection for the ancient Egyptians is it's a shaving between 38 and 39 degrees. And I'll show you what that actually means. Before I go on, I'll come to my new document here.
This is
And
crazy fascinating.
it comes to the three pyramids angle study. Now you're really going to see with this study what these angles mean. So Khufu's pyramid is in converted from degrees, minutes, and seconds to 10 base digital is 51.853972 degrees. That's the Great Pyramid. Khafre Pyramid, which is where these massive coil structures are, is 51.84 degrees. See how it's a shaving different than 51.85? And
Yeah.
Menkaur's pyramid is 51.340278 degrees. Now, what happens is when you take each pyramid and you start with a 90-degree quadrant of observation in the sky, and I take the Great Pyramid's angle minus, uh, so 90 degrees minus it, I get 38.14 degrees. See?
Wow.
And so that's what that tells you is if you look at my arms here, my left arm is facing north, flat. My right arm is facing 38.14 degrees. When I go up in the sky, my wedge is the angle of the Great Pyramid itself, which means the slope angle of the Great Pyramid itself at that location at just under 30 degrees north latitude is pointing right towards the peak of the orbital plane of the rising and setting of this particular planetary body, hyperdimensional planet at that angle. But Khafre's pyramid, when I do that, I'm at 51.84 degrees. So my 38 degrees, so another 38 to 39 degrees is the leftover in the 90-degree slice to the angle of the Great Pyramid to come back to 90 degrees straight up. It's the leftover. So the two angles are within the 90-degree quadrant of each other. And when you come to Menkaur's pyramid, I'm almost at 39 degrees, 38.659, right? I'm greater than 38 and a half, right? I'm almost at 38.66. So
Right.
that means that angle, the reason it varies is because of precession, because the Earth is tilted. The angle of observation precisely to the rising and setting changes over time. And that's why my angel to the east and the west has a slight deviation to it. So again, you have Jesus, not only Magdalene's temple here, but Jesus appears and the disciples catch 153 fish upon Jesus's resurrection, which is the numerical value of the name of Mary of Magdala. So that means Magdala is not exclusive to her, it's the family name. She's Mary of Magdala, just like Jesus's mother is Mary of her father's name, last name. And so every Mary is a Mary of the last name of the family. So Magdala can't just be seen as this one lone woman, it's the whole family. And this is where Jesus is appearing in his resurrection. Of course, he starts appearing in his resurrection along within the 26.3-degree angle where he was born. Now, when we come to our west and we follow the Magdala line here, because Mary Magdalene's boat is sent with all of her followers adrift at sea without a sail or a rudder, and she lands in, they've recorded this. They have a church in France. They've actually recorded this where she lands, and this is where she lands. Right here, right along this line. And of course, we've covered this. So there's no doubt that sailors at sea use stars for navigation, but who's navigating her boat with no rudder and no sail? Clearly, it's the resurrected Christ who's doing this miraculously. And why is he sending her on this angle? Because it's the setting angle to the angle where he appeared in the Sea of Galilee 3 times, and where he walked on water, and where the miracle of the fishes and the feeding of the 5,000 occurred. Now we're going to continue on this line because we did this last week, and now it's way more amazing than I initially thought. When I continue on this line, same angle. Again, the angle changes because you're on a sphere, you're not on a flat surface. The angle changes over these great distances, and we come to the pyramid of the sun in
Mhm.
Mexico. But when I continue the line, which I did in my own time, only a slight deviation, because last week we found, you see this?
Yeah.
This is where Juan Diego in the year 1531 was receiving visions of the Mother Mary. This is where it was occurring. And this is where the basilica is today, the church that contains the tilma, which is the impression of the Mother Mary in the cactus agave fibers, which has survived many attempted attacks. People have thrown acid on it. A bomb was set off to try to explode it and destroy it, and it remained untouched. And so this is where that occurred at the end of the 38 to 39-degree line and the pyramid of the sun at Mexico being at the end of this line. Now, I took this calculation, which is a very long calculation, to the pyramid of the sun. This is incredible, the fact that this is even happening, because why is resurrection angle in the west connecting to the greatest pyramid in Mexico and to the greatest miracle to the Mexican people? Over 25 million people visit this church every year. This is outrageously incredible because it shows the resurrected mother of Christ appearing on resurrection angle, which was known to the ancient Egyptians since their understanding of this began, and we don't know really when that was. So that means that we have a connection. Now, when I did the harmony of the order calculation at that distance, oh my God. I mean, I thought if I measure this in feet and
It'd be
I,
interesting to like trace back the historical record of that ideology if it existed and where in literature that exists.
what, the harmony of the order?
Well, the actual angle.
Well, the angle exists because it's resurrection angle. I mean, I could show you images of the angle. Definitely. Um,
Like scripturally?
in Egyptian iconography.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That for them, that angle is resurrection angle. So here's the calculation. Now, I thought if I measure on Google Earth with my measuring tape from the Great Pyramid along the resurrection angle to the west, 30 with 30, between 38 and 39 degrees. It's just a shaving under 39. That I'm going to get a number, an abstract number, and when I divide it repeating by the golden ratio, I'm going to get nothing. So it's 40,492,580 feet. And I subtract 8 inches per mile for the curvature of the Earth. And the reason I subtract the curvature of the Earth is the harmonic is in the measurement imprinted in human feet. Remember, 12 inches is just a size 12 shoe foot on the ground, which would be the size of a king, basically, foot. That's where the foot comes from, which is why the ancient Egyptians had feet, which were only slightly smaller than ours. And so I take this measurement, and by human design, the harmony of the order will appear. And the harmony of the order is the percentage values of the orbital periods of accuracy of the known planets and the angelic planets. So I start with this number here, which is 40,487,467.3 feet divided by the golden ratio repeating. And when I get to Nibiru, remember these are in days, not years, not Earth years. These are in Earth days. My accuracy on Nibiru's orbit is 94.295%. And then I come to Saturn, I'm at 94.89. I'm almost at 95% accuracy. For Jupiter, I'm 99.95%. Oh my God. The measurement, once again, this keeps happening because you've been in the inner circle a long time. You've seen me measure to Jerusalem, to Jesus's birth,
Hmm.
and Jupiter seems to be ruling everything. And it's
Yeah.
almost 100%. 4330673 is my calculation to the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico, but Jupiter is
Once again,
4332.
Jupiter is Zeus, right?
Jupiter is the god Jupiter to the Romans, who is Zeus to the Greeks. And Earth is at 93.5% accuracy, which is phenomenal. Look at this. Mercury, 95.427%. So in this model, Mercury, the messenger, which is the archangel Gabriel, Gabriel is the
Mm.
messenger,
Yeah.
is are both in the highest accuracy to the measurement. It's incredible. Now, of course,
Yes.
this is a system of mathematics that I was guided by the spirit, which is the harmony of the order, to make these calculations based on distances. And many distant calculations lead to total mush. The numbers are mush. So why is this so perfect? Now I can go all the way to the miracle of the tilma, which is just a little bit further, and this isn't going to change very much. In fact, when I do it, the harmony of the order will change very little, and I might even be more accurate on Saturn. So I will do that calculation. So this basically proves the harmony of the order is imprinted in the ground in the measurement between the Great Pyramid, God's true temple. I mean, if this doesn't mathematically prove that God's temple in Isaiah 19:19 is the Great Pyramid. And again, I'm not the first person to say that. Peter Lemaitre, after all his work in the Great Pyramid Decoded, published in the late 70s, one of the first books I read out of high school. There's a lot of math in this book. And having been a physics student in, grade 11 and 12, I could understand it quite easily. So when we see this, that these measurements to these points, and again, we calculated, I want to go over because I have a little bit more time for this video. The harmony of the order on this green line here leaves the Great Pyramid at pyramid angle. So we have another incredible thing happening.
Another alignment?
This green line is leaving the Great Pyramid at 51 degrees 51 minutes, which is
Wow.
it's going right through. Watch where it goes through. The Grand Egyptian Museum is right here. Do you see the angle on the edge of the museum here? Do you see that? Is exactly consistent with my green angle. That's the
Right.
slope angle of the architectural design. This is the Grand Egyptian Museum, which just opened. Look at that two angles. They're the same. And where does this angle lead? It goes to Stonehenge, which means Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Egypt, by design from above, are in this relationship to one another at in the
As
harmony in the
as above, so below.
as above, so below.
Oh my
Here we
God.
go. We're going to go right to London. You can see London. We're going to come right in to Stonehenge. Holy cow. Like if this, it's like all the dots are connecting and it's like being a bird in the sky. I mean, it's perfect. I mean, we ran
Wow.
through the Grand Egyptian Museum at the same angle from the pyramid, which is pyramid angle, and we're now at Stonehenge.
Wow.
And there is a theory in Tompkins' book on the Great Pyramid. It's in a French book. It's not translated into English. That the true architect of the Great Pyramid came from the land of the Druids, which means
Right.
this is not a brown-skinned Egyptian who built and designed the Great Pyramid. It was a master builder, master architect. And you
Mason.
can't get this kind of clarity in connecting 2 points. Like, again, what causes a person to design two temples at a distance,
So
right?
is a Mason a Freemason?
So here's the length. The length is right here.
Like a follower of King Solomon?
It has to be somebody who has access to outer space to see this in
Right.
perfection. Or
Right.
they're following a certain orbital period at
Right.
angle, rising and setting. And
Right.
the length is 11,806,855 feet.
Or
And
they're anointed by God and they're doing it and they don't even know it.
yeah, and or they're anointed by the Spirit. Of course, I was guided by the Spirit
Yeah.
to make these calculations because
Right.
I'm exposing my body to these frequencies
Right.
every every day almost. And so what we're doing now again, I've already done the calculation on Stonehenge. I already
It's a testament to the frequencies.
well, the frequencies which again the ancient Greeks attested to in Pythagoras are the
Yeah.
secret to tuning the nervous system precisely to open up a gateway of experience, which is what music does. When music is set at proper frequencies and intervals, and you create an arrangement and a rhythm in the body, in the nervous system, it opens up that experience. So what we can see is, again, us in the inner circle, we are this week, you just go to the Google Drive where the frequencies are, and we're doing principalities now, which is the number encoded in days to 99% accuracy to the height or depth of the cylinders under Coffray's pyramid in feet are 6,554.29 feet below the surface in Coffray's pyramid. I mean, I can't, you can't make this stuff up. There's no way to make it up. And so this is where we're going for the next 2 weeks. We'll be doing these frequencies. And so I'm very excited to work with these. And as
Me too.
the insight, you can understand that the master architect, we now know, had knowledge of electricity because the Nathan Stubblefield battery system proves that by putting these coils in the earth, they produce electricity. It's not a lot of electricity, but a giant coil system might produce a significant amount of electricity to run the transducer that then sends the vibrations through the crust of the earth, whose messages reach the other pyramids in this interconnecting symphony of pyramids by design from the harmony of the order above and below. So with that, this week, we are moving on to these new frequencies. And next week, I'm going to demonstrate how 2 points in space and time on the Earth in your own life can have the harmony of the order imprinted in it. So we'll see everybody
Wow.
next week. Have a good week.
Thanks